Hello and welcome. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Let's keep that. We're going to keep that. Hello.
We're going to roll with it.
And welcome to a brand new episode of Real Friends. I am one of your hosts, T-Bob Hebert. To my right is Miss Rivers Hughey. Further right is Mr. Nathan Velasquez.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. I have forgotten what episode number this
11.
is. 11.
Every
episode
time.
11 of Real Friends. Wow, what a long journey we've already been on. And I'm very excited this week because we are talking Nora Ephron movies. But at first, as we do every week, how are y'all doing? And I guess, what have y'all seen lately? Have you gone to the theaters at all? Have you been watching movies in the preparation for the Oscars or anything? Either can start.
I saw Lady Bird, which I can't remember. I don't
You
think we
hadn't
talked about
seen it
on
by
this.
the
Yeah.
time.
No, we talked about
saw
it
Lady
in real
Bird.
life.
I really liked it a
But
lot.
not in Real Friends.
It was very, very good, and I'm happy I went and saw it and that they brought it back for me to go see. And then I watched.
Oh, so you saw it in theaters? You
Yeah,
didn't watch
they
it at home? No,
Lady
I'm
Bird?
just.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, it's not. It's still in theaters some places, right?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. I thought you could only get it on demand. I always hate when I miss a movie in the theater.
No, I think it's still in theaters
Yeah,
some places.
They brought Dunkirk and Get Out and Lady Bird back.
They just it's like a couple
Nice.
weeks after, so they brought it back.
All right. Cool.
And then I did some extra credit, and I watched Shop Around the Corner,
That's really cool.
which
Wow.
is the original You've Got Mail.
Yeah, and we are doing Nora Ephron. So we're doing When Harry Met Sally, and Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail. And yeah, I had no idea. So You've Got Mail is actually based on an old Jimmy Stewart film.
Yeah, I think that movie was based on a play, which was then turned into a movie.
Yeah, it said that
and
right
then-
in the beginning, like during the
Man,
credits.
What a strong source story.
So this
that
story's
is,
been
right?
around for almost 100 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Isn't that crazy?
And
But
then
it ages well.
it ages very well, which speaks to it having, the very strong core elements that for whatever reason we find very engaging, that you can just kind of tack on whatever the modern technology of the day. And wait, so how was Shop Around the Corner?
It was really good. I will be honest, I haven't quite finished it, but it gets to a point where it's like shot for shot, You've Got Mail, which
Wow.
is cool.
That's kind of wild.
The characters, I liked some of the characters in the Shop Around the Corner. I didn't care for others. And it also was a little slower. It was, I don't know what,
Well, I mean,
I don't know what made it seem boring. I mean, the first half of the movie seemed kind of boring. And then once they started getting into the You've Got Mail, like
Yeah.
side by side, it was a lot more
Wow,
interesting.
well, it came out like before World War II, so movies probably a little bit slower.
Just a little bit slower.
Yeah, that would make sense.
There was a lot,
that's
you know what, though?
completely different
You guys
culture.
probably would have loved it. There was a lot of build up and backstory.
Yeah.
A lot
yes.
of backstory.
Build up
Yes.
and backstory is pretty cool.
Look, you reap what you sow. And so if you put extra care into the fields, you're going to get a beautiful
Yeah.
plant
Yeah.
out of that soil.
Did Shop Around the Corner come out before It's a Wonderful Life? Do you know?
Ooh.
That would have had
Yes.
had to have come out.
Really?
because-
He seemed, Jimmy Stewart seemed
6
young.
years before.
Definitely seemed younger.
Okay. I'm going to have to check it out. Anything else?
That's all. New Girl.
It's still on New Girl. How close are
How
you to
mu-
getting
yeah.
done?
I'm so close.
Oh, my God. Oh, man. That's crazy. Good on you. Everybody's into what they're into.
Oh, man.
Rivers is into
I just
watching
can't. Well, I started.
massive
Now I can't
amounts
stop.
of old sex sitcoms. Yeah, you have like an OCD thing
I can't
where
stop.
you have to finish it
I
out.
haven't gone through a sitcom in a while.
I don't think I have either. I don't know when the last one would have been, actually.
I have to be really careful when I'm like flipping through the channels if I end up on TBS and it's like Friends or something, because I'll watch one episode and I'm like, what happens next? I can't remember, and then I'm like,
I should
8
watch
seasons
Friends again.
deep.
I get sucked into Friends pretty easily.
I have to be very careful.
Nathan, what have you been watching? Friends?
No. I saw First They Killed My Father, which is on Netflix, and that's it's up for Best Foreign Language Movie. It's about whenever a revolution happened in Cambodia. I forget what time period it was, but it was pretty much like bare bones communism. Like after America it was during the Nixon years.
Okay, so wait, where's it set?
Cambodia.
Okay.
And I think it's called the Khmer Rouge Revolution, where they pretty much took all the rich people out of their homes, emptied out the cities, put everyone in work camps. Like if you were caught picking food while you were harvesting from the fields, you were pretty much killed.
So was this like under the Soviets, or was this just another communist
No,
regime just kind
was
of
a
rising?
faction of people in Cambodia.
Okay,
who
but they wanted like a communist revolution in Cambodia.
Yeah, it was like a strong reaction to what America had been doing, the bombing that America had been doing, and the whole movie is seen from this. I think she's like an 8-year-old girl who is in real life. She became a big activist, and she's one of the screenwriters. It's really good. It's a little bit long, but it's very good. It is slow. It takes its time, but It's
I like how you look at me. You're like, it's a little slow.
So who killed her father exactly? Like what
Will that
what
ruin
is
it?
she? Is she on the point? I guess is she on the pro-revolution, like pro-communist side?
Her father was involved in the government, which the first thing they do when the
Okay.
revolution happens is kill everyone in the
Involved in
government.
government.
So they try and go
got
as
it.
long as possible without them finding out who her father is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty much half of the movie is literally filmed from her point of view, and
That's cool.
it's kind of surprising because it's directed by Angelina.
Wait, literally, like,
Oh, okay. I know the movie you're talking
like
about.
a POV if you were like a tiny child, like
Yeah.
looking up at people and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Wasn't
pretty
there?
bold.
Did you hear the rumor? And I think that's what it ended up being as a rumor that when she casted that little girl, what happened with that?
What was the rumor?
So the rumor was that when they were casting that little girl, they brought in all these different little girls, and I mean, she like basically, what was it? She said something like, not her, but the casting person basically was like said something really awful, like something like someone had died or something. Like they tried to get a real reaction out of the little girls, and it was something really, really like.
I
How do you
listened to-
know? How do you know
aggressive.
so much about this movie?
It was in an interview, like
It's made by Angelina Jolie, so there's been a lot of.
Oh, so this
stuff
is a
coming out.
recent.
but
film.
she had to
Yes.
respond
Okay.
to it.
It's up for best foreign movie. So this
Oh,
year.
okay. I thought okay.
Oh, it was
this whole
almost like-
time I'm thinking that we're talking about an older movie.
No.
Okay.
This is. It
Or
came
like
out like 2 weeks
They
ago.
gave some money and then they were like took the money back, like a huge
not
amount
sure.
of money. Well, anyway,
Ooh,
she had
and
to.
then they like cattle prodded the kids, and they
Yes.
started to like like.
But she
burn
had to.
them.
It was so bad though that Angelina Jolie ended up having to respond to it and basically say,
I-
"We didn't like do anything to these girls."
Damn,
you
I wonder.
know.
I wonder what it was.
I wish I could remember the specifics, but
Nathan, why do you support such inhumane filmmaking?
I mean, listen, they're not American actors, so I'm not gonna fight their corner if they're not fighting
Yeah,
mine.
that's right.
But it's good. It's very
very
they-
xenophobic here on the Real Friends podcast.
I was surprised by the end of it how suspenseful it was. It was good. I'd recommend.
And it
people
was
watch
first they killed my father.
First they killed my father. Yeah.
All right, cool. As far as what I've been watching, I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't really think I've been watching all that much. I've been reading a lot lately. I've
No,
been in a
let's not-
hard reading
no
kick.
reading,
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Storm Before the Storm, a little Roman history. Just picked up a little Battle of New Orleans action. Got this.
What's some
hey,
stuff
in
you
your
learned
video, the Sad Pelicans video, were
Yeah.
you reading Guns, Germs, and Steel?
Yes, I was.
I have that
Yes.
book. I
Well, I
love
was
that book.
fake reading it.
Oh, okay.
So that
Well,
was
yeah.
That was
going
a
to-
very
that,
funny
That
video.
was good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I actually thought of you, Nathan, when I made that. I
Oh.
hope that you appreciate.
Did you think
it.
of me in the shower portion?
That was mainly what I was referring to. Yeah, how good eye, by the way, the Guns,
love that
Germs, and
book.
Steel. So that was going to be my next book, and I just finished a kind of dense one, and then I opened up Guns, Germs, and Steel, and I was like, ooh.
It's really
this
not
is-
as bad as it might
This is some
seem.
tiny print.
It
This looks
is,
pretty
but it's very
dense.
interesting.
I know, and it seems fascinating, but I'm giving myself a little break. And now the Battle of New Orleans one's like it's like really short. But then the other book that I'm on is have you ever heard of I don't know what he actually calls it trilogy. Ken Follett. Ken Follett is a writer. He does this historical fiction. Now it's a trilogy. It's set in different points in like English history. It's around this fictional town that has a cathedral in the town. But it's I really don't know how else to
Sounds cool.
explain it. It's kind of weird, but I've read the first two. This latest one's like a couple hundred years later. It seems great. So I don't know. I've been reading.
What's the name of it?
World. Okay, so World Without End was I think the second one. Pillars of the Earth is the first one, and I can't remember the name of the one that I'm reading.
We should
right
start
now.
like a subset of Real Friends, which
I'm
is a book club.
I
I
didn't
was
know- did
actually
you know
thinking
that-
about doing
That'd
a
be
book
pretty
club.
cool.
I think
Did
we
y'all know
should do
that
a book club.
I'm like to books like what you are to movies?
You love
I
books?
didn't know that. Really?
I did not know that.
I don't really talk about reading that much, but reading's awesome.
I love books.
Reading is
Reading
good.
is very cool. It's a lot
Do
more
that.
satisfying in the
You
long
know
run
what else
than
I've been
movies.
doing? So I got a baby on the way. I've been reading out loud a lot.
Have you
That's
been
cool.
reading to the
And
baby?
Yes.
That's
and
awesome.
So I read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's an old.
Oh, I love that. That is.
Yes,
I had
okay,
to
so
read
right-
that for a class.
So I had never read one of those kind of as those are supposed to be read out loud. Like that's the point, right? They would have been played by a bard and like
Yeah.
and like an inn, and you would have paid and listened. So I was pretty shocked by how much of a like actual difference I noticed reading it out loud. Like the alliteration, the flow, like you could really it was vastly different. The reading ahead to the point where even when I would read it when no one was home, I would read out loud by myself.
That's really cool.
That's
yeah,
cool.
so I would just recommend give it a shot if anybody want to. But besides that, the only thing I watched is Britannia. I watched a couple episodes of this new Amazon show called Britannia. Kind of scratches a Game of Thrones type of itch. Romans invading ancient Britain and druids and a little magic here. It's kind of cool. I don't know if I recommend it, though, honestly. I don't know how good it is, but I'm kind of enjoying it. But that's it for what I've been doing. Now, are we ready to dive into our Nora Ephron film?
I think so.
All
So
right.
this is really the first like screenwriter track we followed, because these are all
Definitely.
movies written by Nora Ephron.
Yeah, and like we used to shoot a very wide shell, right? Like shotgun shells, a very wide grouping. You know, we've been narrowing in here more recently, and I think it's for the better. So yeah, this is a narrow Nora Ephron screenwriter, and you
Also
can
kind of a Meg
feel-
Ryan thing.
Yes, and
Yes.
that's great call. Meg Ryan obviously is the other common denominator in this conversation. But yeah, you can definitely feel the similarities in this movie. Kind of the through
And kind
line
of a
this
Rob
comes
Reiner
from the
thing.
same person.
Yeah.
He's connected to all of them, I think.
Okay, wait. So help me out with that. So Rob Reiner directs.
When
Which
Harry
one did
Met
he
Sally.
direct? Okay.
Yeah.
But he's in Sleepless in
And then
Seattle.
Yeah.
he's the friend in Sleepless in Seattle, right? Okay.
So I
You know,
guess he's not. You've got
Rob
no.
Reiner is the son of the old man in the Ocean's movies. Do y'all remember the old man, the one that
Oh,
always wears like
yes.
Like the big glasses?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay, I
didn't
can
realize
see that,
that.
yeah.
That's
he was
cool.
he was like a comedy director in like the 60s and 70s.
Wow. Okay.
He also
Learn
plays
something new every day.
Jess's dad in New Girl.
Who? The old man or Rob
Oh,
Reiner?
Wow,
Rob Reiner.
He does.
I've never seen New Girl still. All right. So as we always do, we will go in chronological order. Meaning, I'm sorry, y'all. My voice is shot, by the way, too, in case anybody can't notice. Meaning, we will start with When Harry Met Sally. Nathan, what year did this come out? Give us a little background.
When Harry Met Sally is 1989. Harry and Sally meet after graduation, and they're both going to New York, so they pretty much carpool to New York together. I think this might be You've Got Mail that we've got back here. It's still a good one. Still a very good one.
You can judge by Meg Ryan's hair. Meg Ryan's hairstyles give you an immediate peek into whichever movie you're talking about.
But yeah, they're driving, and Billy Crystal is kind of obnoxious, and Sally is not having any of his attitude.
It's pretty obnoxious, isn't
And
he?
it pretty much the main theme of the movie that they have here is his idea that men and women cannot be really friends because sex always gets in the way. Even if they aren't attracted to each other, the man in particular is always going to make it get in the way. And they never see each other after they make their trip to New York. They meet again a few years later, kind of have, they're warmer with each other, but still, she does not like him very much. And they go their separate ways. You can tell that he's matured a little bit.
Yeah. He's about to get married.
Yeah. But then they meet again. He's about to get divorced. Like, neither of them are doing all that well. And they do become friends, and they don't really talk about this whole idea, but it's obviously in all of our minds.
Yeah.
That can they really be friends, or is this going to get in the way? Eventually, it does get in the way. So.
Yeah, and that's where it and they kind of like does it ever answer that can men and women truly be friends? Well, should we get into that now? Because I feel like that is going to be one of the bigger parts.
that is-
I feel like that's the
it's kind of
biggest
the crux of
problem.
this movie.
I think that's the biggest problem with the movie is that it's kind of, you want to be excited because they're going to show you that it can exist, but then they end up putting them together in the end anyways. So
it kind of says that they can't.
yeah,
exist.
I mean, I don't know.
It kind of shows
doesn't
Billy
ruin the
Crystal was
movie.
right at the beginning, really, was his. And it's not like a cynical type of thing. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, listen, if we are friends, then, we're probably going to like each other, and we're probably going to.
But that doesn't mean you got to marry every person you're friends with, and I just feel like they,
So.
Well, that's why I was interested to talk to you about this
Mm-hmm.
specifically because obviously we are friends. You have
I actually have like a Harry.
many other
Like,
friends.
I have a
So
guy
that's
who's-
what I'm wondering about because I do not have a girlfriend that
Oh, no, I don't.
I feel like I'm good friends with a lot of my wife's friends because we all grew up together, like we've grown
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But I do not have a girlfriend where I would go like get lunch with her or
yeah.
like
I
get
think,
dinner.
I
with her
think
or
that's
anything like
important
that.
because they have a friendship where they're meeting up in the park to just hang out.
Yes,
Like,
alone.
No, I have friends like that.
Alone.
I have tons of friends like that.
Really?
Tons of guy friends like that. And I think some people think that's strange. It doesn't seem strange to me just because it's how it's always been. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think about it that way. But I specifically have a guy friend who is basically my Harry, other than that, like, we're not married.
Yeah.
But we like really hated each other. He dated one of my friends, and like seriously, like dated one of my friends, and then they broke up, and then somehow we became friends, and like even like talk on the phone and like watch movies and like.
What?
But we were just always friends, and he's still like one of my best friends to this day.
And so at the risk of
I love the attitude that Billy Crystal, and I love Billy Crystal. I love his cynicism, and I love how like an asshole.
He's got good
he is.
delivery.
At the beginning, whenever she says like, "No, I have tons of guy friends," and he's like, "No, well, then it's still a problem." He's like, "Probably not for you, but for them."
For them.
So,
And that's
okay,
a
so
good
can
point.
I ask that?
Yeah, like that's a good point.
Is that too personal to ask? Do you think that you're Harry? Do you think that he wants to sleep with you?
And I don't think it's in an active way in the movie that they talk about.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm sure that there were points like in our friendship where if like the timing had worked, or like I wasn't dating someone, or he was, like there could have been moments where we would have gotten together, but it just never did. So yeah, I guess the answer to that question would be like there were moments.
So
yes.
if I'm being honest, like I think that's completely normal.
Yeah.
Like I think what Harry is saying is true, but I also think people can be friends. And like, even if like it's only natural to be attracted to someone, but it doesn't mean you're going to do anything about it, right?
But also, they were friends until they passed some boundaries. Like he should not have really gone over that night.
Yeah, but the whole time he wasn't
thinking
about,
like,
I mean, the whole time though he is attracted to her. In my mind,
he
at
is
least.
attracted
he
to
even
her.
says he is.
But that night he went over there. I mean, I think that's totally normal. He went over there because she was upset, and he is her friend.
Yeah.
And like in his mind, he wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't think
so
he went
that's
over
what
there
he
with
didn't
ill
think anything of
intentions.
it. He was just like, I'm gonna go over there and comfort her.
But whenever he went over there, you knew.
But then you knew, yeah. Well, you knew when she started like, it was just like.
Well, there was that
then they
one-
had a
there was
weird
that-
mouth
there's
kiss.
that- The mouth kiss.
The mouth kiss
Which came
was
out of
horrible.
nowhere. The first mouth kiss.
And they
was
acted like
very
it was
comfortable.
normal.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they hadn't mouth kissed yet
Which
in the movie.
kind of speaks to them both having this underlying attraction throughout their friendship.
Right.
But like I said, I think that you can be friends even if there is attraction. Like that's just human beings interacting with each other. But you just don't do anything.
And maybe I'm not a good gauge for that because I do have lots of guy
Well, that's why
friends.
you're the perfect person to ask this question, though. So how does Kevin feel about that? Your husband?
I mean, I'm sure-
Because that's what I think everybody on the outside worries
And I
about.
love the conversation in the airport whenever they're on the moving escalator. Whenever they talk about whenever they talk about, well, no, they can be friends if they're both involved, because then it cancels it out. But then again, of course, that makes it the other person feels like they're not something in the relationship that should be there. So really, it can't work.
Well,
Yes, because he's absolutely right. Because then the person feels like, well, why do you need to talk to? Why do you need to talk to him, or why do you like this with him? Why can't you do this with me?
yeah. So sometimes that could happen, like with Kevin. But I think Kevin and I have been together for over 10 years.
Yes.
So at first, I think it was strange for him, just because one, we were young, and you're jealous of everybody.
Yes, and that is a
So-
big factor in
Right.
all of this is age and.
But I was
And you
everything
can
pretty-
else.
tell that their idea about this changes a lot as they get older.
Yes, it's very
You just
true.
mature
That's a
into
good
it. But
point.
I mean, I think I was pretty much of like hey, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Like, so if that bothers
Strong,
you.
independent woman.
Well, no, I mean, and that's kind of how I've always been.
No,
like,
that's how you gotta
hey,
be.
this is how I'm going to be. That's not going to change. And so if that does bother you, then like.
Well, hey, and it's like we're in a relationship. You have to trust me, right?
Right.
That I'm not going to be like banging all these guys
Right.
and
I
girls.
remember
Like
I
I'm
got
not just going to
into-
go around sleeping.
I
with
got into
everyone.
a big fight with one girl, like in high school, about this thing. She was like, that's not true. Like the whole when Harry met Sally thing.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about one guy in particular, and then they got married like 2 years later.
Wow.
And they had a kid.
I always wonder.
Wait, so she was saying
No,
that
she was saying like I can have guy friends, and it's not
Hey,
that
yes,
thing. And
and
we were
she
talking about one
referenced
person
him,
in particular,
and then they got married. Oh wow, ooh.
You know what I do
She
always
went
wonder
Harry Met
about?
Sally.
So I have lots of guy friends,
Yeah.
and I do find myself going way out of my way to befriend like their girlfriends or whatever, just
Yeah,
so
you
that
have
they
to.
like know.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
always wonder, and it's not like I'm not close enough with any of those girls to have the conversation, but I always wonder how they feel about it, because I think that's different than how like Kevin feels about it.
I'm sure that there is I think so the same way that a lot of this relates to age, a lot of this relates to security in your relationship.
Yeah.
You and Kevin are very secure.
Yeah.
As you said, you trust each other. Because of that, you can both allow yourselves a lot more leeway. If you have people who are at the beginning of a relationship, they're obviously probably going to be like if let's say a girl starts dating your Harry, she's probably gonna be like, whoa, now who is this chick?
Yeah, at
Like,
first it's always
who's
like a
this
little
girl that you're
strange.
like going and hanging out with, and then eventually as they get to know each other and she realizes it's platonic, not a big deal, then yeah.
Right.
Then it'll be
And also
good
that
to
I'm
go.
like not going anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
I've been here for a while. Like I'm not going anywhere. It is. It's like it's a thing. It's
Has
funny.
any girl ever tried to make Harry stop hanging out with you?
I mean, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I mean, I don't think so. And he's very much like I am too. So I mean, I could see him being like, "This is kind of how I'm going to be."
Nice.
But yeah, he's getting married. I'm so happy for him.
I figured you might have one because I know that you just seem to have a lot of friends, a pretty wide social circle.
Yeah.
And so,
But like so close to him, like I mean, like he is almost like a brother, you know?
yeah,
I mean,
yes. So, but I'm saying you are living proof that, I mean, I guess
This is us?
even this movie is kind of like, I don't think that it definitively says anything either way, though maybe you could argue that it says that you can't be friends. I just think that it acknowledges some of the truths kind of within those friendships.
Just like the things you
and
don't
the things
talk
you have to deal
about.
with. Yes, the things you normally don't talk about. That's what Billy
if you have a
Crystal
guy
does.
and a girl that are friends, you go to the guy and you press him. He's like, "But come on, you're attracted to her." He's like, "Yeah, kind of." Like it puts that at the forefront.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think
I think it
interesting-
handles all of this very well. I actually think this is the most realistic relationship of any of the three movies that we'll discuss today. And even though it has this cosmic romanticism of like bouncing apart over 10 years, barely seeing each other, but just I can buy the development of their relationship more than the others.
Well, even his friend, I thought this was an interesting point too, because it is true and you don't think about it. Billy Crystal's essentially like, well, I mean, we're the same kind of friends as you and I, but I can talk to her about stuff that I would never ever talk to you about.
Yes.
Like making a girl meow. Which is like so weird.
Oh, the restaurant scene.
Wait, you made her meow though.
Yeah, I love how he keeps going back to that too. That is one thing that Nora Ephron absolutely nails throughout all three of these movies is dialogue, but
Yes.
especially between friends.
Yes.
Like the relationship dialogue is great as well, but when you have the best friends in every movie,
But they're
I think
so witty.
they're very good.
They're so witty. And you know what it made me think of? You know, like on text messaging or even like social media or whatever, you're always like a funnier version of yourself.
Yeah, you're
'Cause
trying to get in quips.
You can think about what you're gonna say. And I'm just like not quick witty. I'm just not. Like I'm never gonna be. So like they're
Quitty.
Well, they're like
Speak for yourself.
You aren't either.
Speak for yourself.
Nathan, you're very quick. You're very quick with your
Quitty.
wit, but like I have to think about things before I
quitty.
say them. And so like to listen, they're very quick witted. But it reminded me, their conversations remind me of conversations I have over text message, like with friends who are,
I agree with
who
that.
have, you know, like they
When
seem-
you're firing off zingers, you're
Oh,
both zinging back
that's
and
what,
forth.
of all
Yes.
of the movies, Billy Crystal's my favorite because he's got all the one-liners
Yeah,
ready.
he's like
now
ready.
he's almost. It almost tips over into too much territory where I call it Gilmore Girls disease. Where like Gilmore Girls is very like
I know what you're talking about.
like it's
Gilmore
like
Girls
watching
is-
people just volley back and forth to a point where like I don't believe that anybody.
That's stressful
is
because I'm
this
like,
quick
I'm not
on the
like that at
draw.
all. Like I want to
Yeah.
be funny like that, but I'm never gonna be able to do.
But I
that.
think like some of there are people who are like that. Billy Crystal isn't so over the top, so he gets a pass from me. But yeah, I think Nathan used the perfect word. He definitely starts this movie pretty obnoxious when he's a young little
But I love how
try hard
obnoxious
and
he
he,
is
and
at
he thinks he
first.
knows everything.
Yeah.
Everybody knows those little shithead college kids that think they've got like everything figured out. And yeah. Now I'm trying to think about what else stood out in this movie.
I
to
really
me.
liked the sense of irony that came up every now and then, like the scene where they're at the ball game. He's talking at the baseball game with his friend, and they're talking about how this serious conversation about like my wife. She told me, she looked at me, and she said she might have never loved me. And then they get up and they do the wave.
The wave. Oh, it's so good, dude. This is so that brings something up. This is the funniest, I would say, of the three movies.
Yes.
In
Yeah,
my
I thought
opinion.
so. Or when
Think
they're
so.
standing at the altar together, like they've had this big fight, and they're both the best man and the best woman, and they're both looking at each other at the altar after the fight. I thought that was very.
Another excellent part of this movie that I enjoyed was the best friends
Yes.
falling for
Yeah.
each other.
I love
Princess
Carrie
Leia?
I
Carrie
really like
Fisher
Carrie
is
Fisher
my
in this
favorite
movie.
Meg Ryan friend of all three of these.
I like
she's the
Carrie
best friend
Fisher.
of anybody.
My favorite thing that happened in this movie, probably hands down, is Carrie Fisher pulling out a Rolodex out of her purse.
Yeah.
Like this, the whole thing.
That was very funny.
It's such it's so crazy. Just going back, like since we've been doing this show, just watching old movies and seeing just how technology has changed culture, or in ways hasn't changed culture, I guess, right? Like, because that's basically, I guess, like pulling out your contacts.
Right.
Or like in Sleepless in Seattle, she does a very early version of Facebook stalking.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
He's like, why are you watching them on the beach like that?
Okay, yes, okay. We need to get to this.
Meg Ryan got a little creepy.
Anything else on
I really
When Harry
like-
Met Sally?
I really like her
clothes.
clothes. Oh, I was about to
Oh
say.
no, this scene in
Oh my-
particular,
look at
whenever
Harry and
they're
Sally right
like,
now.
like you know with Annie Hall, how Diane Keaton kind of changed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought like the way that she dressed, it seems like she's doing something new, but it also feels like this is just her style, and it's rooted in her personality perfectly. I love
I
it.
well
completely
said.
agree.
Yeah, Meg Ryan does a
I love her
really
wardrobe.
good job throughout these movies of carrying herself with kind of a unassuming confidence, like not cocky, but someone who seems very sure of herself, and it's very attractive,
Oh,
like outside looking
I loved
in.
the way they filled in all the details, especially of her personality, the way that she would order for half an hour.
Oh, that reminds
Which
me.
makes me so uncomfortable. I can't.
Whenever they're in
when they
the
do
Chinese
that,
restaurant,
dude.
he just looks at the waiter like,
I'm like, yeah, I would just, every time she would order, I would just be like, I'm sorry.
That reminds
Tip,
me.
I apologize.
We talked about this the other day, but my favorite line from like any movie.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, you're the worst kind of woman. You are high maintenance, but you think you're low maintenance, and that is me so much.
I just like what I want. He said, yeah. I
It's
like
just
it.
Yeah,
me
I-
so
exactly.
much.
Oh man, yeah. So look, I really loved When Harry Met Sally. This movie's better than I remembered.
I like the interviews a lot. I thought it kind of, especially even it feels even though if you might question like, are these actors? It feels incredibly real, and I think it roots the entire story in it humanizes
very
the
good point.
relationship
The-
a lot.
The
That's a
only
very good
problem
point.
with the interviews, though, and not that it matters because it's not like, I mean, you basically know what's going to happen in this movie when you start the
Yeah.
movie. But, I mean, it kind of does ruin it for you. Like, it's all these couples and they're all together. Like, you know they're going to end up together.
Oh, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. I don't think though.
And not that it ruins the movie,
Yeah,
but
because
like,
I don't think the goal of the movie is necessarily do they or don't they. It's more how they
How they get there.
And
how
it's-
they
it's
get there
when
along
Harry
the
met
way.
Sally, so it's you kind
Yeah.
of know that they're.
But that's a really good point, though. The real life couple interviews do provide that through line, that kind of baseline for the movie. And then I think it becomes that much more impactful when you see them at the end and they're talking about just normal, like everyday type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it
I
reinforces
thought
how
that
they
was
work. They work
so
together.
What was it that they're talking about? They're like, oh yeah,
Remember,
Their
I can't-
wedding.
No, it's
It was
like
their wedding.
we put and we have to get the chocolate
Oh,
sauce
the
on the side because if it's on the top, you know the coconut really soaks that stuff up and it ruins it.
So I
Meg
thought
Ryan
that was great.
Also, big props to the hair and makeup people being able to, with just Meg Ryan's hair, taking her from like 22 to the early 40s.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now, did they get how? Because it goes 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
5 years, but then we only deal with like 6 months or something like that.
yeah, that
right?
last little
that's
bit.
Like I
is
feel
really
like
quick.
they're like mid 30s at
That's
the
right.
end of
At
this.
the end, they say 12 years and 3 months, so she would have been maybe later 30s. And
I had the numbers.
Oh, she
earlier
was
today.
31. She was 31 when they met for the last time.
Okay.
Because she made that they were at lunch and she basically
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
31. You can't meet people after a certain age or whatever.
So is this no? This I'm getting out. I'm gonna get my Nora Ephron movies. This isn't the one that had the lines about being over 40 and
Well, actually, I think
being
there's-
killed by a terrorist.
What?
No. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. That was
Sleepless.
that's Sleepless in
yeah,
Seattle.
yeah.
That's what that is. Okay. Anything else on When Harry Met Sally?
I forgot how much I liked Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal's great.
Obviously, the orgasm scene is great. That's very funny.
And what I realized,
I'll have what she's having is one of the great lines.
Then it's
thought-
Rob Reiner's mom.
oh
Oh,
wow,
wow.
I didn't
never
know
knew-
that.
Yeah. Look at Rivers pulling out the facts today. Nice work.
I don't know what's been happening in the last year and a half. I've been a lot more emotional in movies. I cried at the last whenever Meg Ryan says like I hate you so much. Like you have to go and you have to say something like that, and I hate you.
It's that's,
I got him.
that got you.
Yeah.
Nothing. Surprisingly for your boy here.
Surprisingly.
Maybe because I've seen these too many times. Nothing really brought me to tears this week.
Oh no, it was
The
whenever
ending
he
of You Got
said.
Mail a bit.
It was whenever he said, whenever you realize who you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to begin as quickly as possible.
Yes,
I think
that's
I've
why he
seen
ran
that
over
great.
there.
I think
It's a
I've
good
seen
line.
this movie so many times, which is why it doesn't quite get to me as much. Only because I've, that's like a great line. I've seen it so many times, but it is very, very good. And
So
it's-
this is rated R too.
really?
Which I found
Well, I guess we
interesting.
talk about
The
sex a
orgasm
lot.
scene.
They say F.
they talk about
say the
sex
F
a
word.
lot.
The orgasm scene alone, I was wondering if back in the day if that would have been enough to put it over the top. One great part
probably.
about that scene, though, beyond just like Meg Ryan faking an orgasm, is just how
Very
Harry believes that no way any woman has ever faked an orgasm with me.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and he's like, and he's kind of
No.
still trying to
No.
like futilely hold on to that. Like,
I
you're
don't
full
know.
of it.
I don't know.
Yes, I know. Exactly. Like the ultimate male hubris where you just know you're wrong.
I guess one maybe last point, if we've got some time, is this is the oldest of them. Did it kind of feel like I felt like this was felt like the most recent. It didn't feel like this was 10 years before You've Got Mail to me.
I feel like I don't think about it in terms of recent or oldest, but I think I see what you're saying, but I view it through the lens of this felt the most realistic or relatable out of the relationships. But I don't know if I felt that it was I guess I just didn't think about it chronologically.
More relevant.
Too,
it felt more.
Other than like wardrobe and hair, there weren't a lot of and the Rolodex. There weren't a lot of time markers. Like
some of these movies have a ton of pop culture references that I'm
just
like, what?
There
like,
wasn't
what
really. So you could watch this and not really know when it was shot, other than their clothes and wardrobe.
So it probably has that lends it more of a timeless type of feel.
Yeah, like Sleepless in Seattle, there were like Game Boys and like the computer she was typing on or whatever. You just knew when they were.
Now, so that's When Harry Met Sally. It's an excellent movie. It really is. Everybody should go watch it. Next up on the list is, I'm sorry, did anybody have anything else to add?
No. That was it.
Cool. Next up on the list is Sleepless in Seattle. Nathan, background info.
Sleepless in Seattle, 1993. Tom Hanks plays Sam, a recent widower who decides that he's got to get out of Chicago. He can't be there anymore. He's too sad. It's hurting his life, his relationship with his son. So he moves to Seattle, where after a few years, his son, his adorable son.
A year and a half.
So cute.
Yeah, a year and a half. He calls into this radio station on Christmas, who's kind of like, my dad needs help. He's in a funk right now. He hasn't had his wife for a year and a half. And this is national radio. So they get Tom Hanks on the phone, and women all over the country hear this man who misses his wife.
Sad man.
It's like Delilah. Everybody's listening to Delilah, right? It's basically national Delilah show.
They see that he loved his wife. He lost his best friend. And women around the country they want a man that talks about them like that.
Right.
And Meg Ryan is in a relationship, a pretty serious relationship, with a guy who, kind of like in You've Got Mail, it seems like they fit together. They choose the same thing. They choose the same dishware for their wedding.
Yes.
But she responds to this almost more than it seems anyone else does. She responds to it on a much more personal level, and so she kind of tries to seek out.
Some would say an obsessive level.
Yeah, it is
Some
kind
would.
of obsessive.
a stalkerish level potentially.
Yeah. But then it's about it's almost like a forbidden love story because these two people are far away and eventually.
And they don't know each other.
They don't know
one's
each
in a
other.
very stable relationship with a guy who does everything for her.
And Tom Hanks he goes out there, he tries to connect with these women, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, so this movie right here, the starting point for me is definitely that this movie requires the biggest suspension of the belief.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is basically a fairy tale. And you know what? I actually think
Just fine.
that they lean into that. Like, and when you think about some of the shots of the map and how it's got a very fairy tale, almost like Playhouse type of look, that very fake look, and some of the extended no dialogue scenes. I don't know why that kind of visual storytelling to me speaks to like a more fairy tale type of setting. So although if you view this through a rational lens, Meg Ryan is a psychotic individual.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the dividing line between this being a horror movie is so thin. You could easily make her a crazy killer.
Although, I
she's
will
a jerk
say-
to her
tweaks.
fiance.
I will say this is honestly
Nobody gets it worse than Walter.
Walter is so anxiety inducing for me.
Oh
I
my
can't.
God!
but
What the?
You don't
what?
try. No,
Because
but
he has allergies.
Does he
My
still?
God, he was born that way. That's like Walter's biggest
If a
personality
man gives you
flaw.
that much anxiety, should you still backhand him like this? He didn't deserve this.
This is my favorite version
And
of.
then he's just like, yeah, you're probably right. You're like, yeah, go ahead, you scamp.
This is
There's a heart on
my.
the Empire State Building. Go over there.
This is my favorite version of Meg Ryan of all three movies.
Really?
Oh wow.
What a bold choice. I would not have considered
And
that.
you want to know what? I want to take up for Meg Ryan here a little bit in
Okay.
her craziness.
Okay.
She's great in all of it. She is creepy, but
This
she's
is where
still
Rivers
great.
reveals her truly romantic
Oh, so
soul.
this
No,
is
no,
where
no,
we
this
see
is
you
what-
are Meg Ryan.
No,
Yes.
no. Okay, so I guess I was thinking about it in like context of where we are now. So, she hears this guy or whatever. She doesn't know him. She falls in love with him, whatever. She does some research. She likes him even more, whatever. The whole deal. It does make her a little bit crazy. But how is that any different than, let's say, any of us, me or whoever,
Yeah.
finding some person on social media
Yeah.
and like stalking them on social media or whatever, and almost creating this feeling of like knowing them and like. I'm sure
It
that
is the
happens to people
original
all the
Facebook
time.
stalking.
I'm sure people like fall in love with people or become interested in people all the time they've never ever met. Strictly
I'm
based
sure
on
that
like
that
some
happens.
research that they
So
do.
would
But I'm
you-
talking about like people
So
probably.
you're saying not like the extreme, like I write letters to this murderer in jail, and
Instead,
I'm like in love
you know
with
what?
them.
Instead, they just send them an Instagram message or a Twitter message or whatever. And how's that any different?
So you're saying how is that? Would you feel like kind of if you found out that some guy in Seattle had come and was kind of looking at you, like he was looking at you while ever you're preparing for like a radio show or something, like, you'd say, well, it's kind of the same as looking at me on Facebook.
now that's maybe where
Yeah,
it gets.
no, that's where it
maybe
gets a
crosses
little
the
like,
line
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit,
Like you
is
go
that she
cross
shows
Yes,
up-
country.
yes,
you go
She
yes.
cross
shows up
country.
and
No,
panics and like goes all the way
No,
over to
look,
the
that
stairs.
I
You're the
can't.
girl
I
in the
can't take
road.
up for. Yeah, I can't take up for there. And I also am wondering in the end where she ends up being that's Annie and like they're on the top of the
Like
Empire
what
State
happens
Building.
the second they
Like,
walk out of the
does
Empire State
Does he
Building?
not go? Oh wait, you're the girl who was staring at me across the road.
He just goes, Jonah. Let's get out of here, Jonah. This woman.
But
I
I,
saw
but I
her.
guess I have
What's
to,
your-
and that's why I like want to defend her because she is a little like the way we're looking at it. Yes, I mean, but that's how
Yeah,
that's how
it's-
you had to stalk people. Then you had to fly across the country. But now we can do it from the comfort of our own
Well,
home.
Yeah,
and
it's
this,
easier. It's
This movie,
But it's still stalking people.
But this movie
is.
tells you though. But this movie tells you it like pretty explicitly that it's not. We are not here to be realistic. This is
No.
because she mentions even the letter needs to include magic, right? Like
Yeah.
she tells you herself this is a romantic. That's why I keep going back to the word fantasy because this is like a prophesied like you were the one destined to save the world. Like these two were always going to get together no matter what. They just had to eventually find each
Yeah,
other.
well,
and
and what were
it's-
the chances that her letter was going to be the one that got read,
it's-
and that it was the best of and most sincere of all of them?
It's just a
and-
funny. It's just an anecdote that she was creepy. Like it's a very magical movie. Like this isn't gonna happen. This isn't really
Yes,
gonna happen.
yes,
Also, if it was that
exactly.
easy for Meg Ryan to find him and his address, where all these other women probably would have too. She's not the only crazy
but
out
she's
there.
a journalist.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
I'm sure
that's
there's
the
other
key.
journalists out there.
No,
who,
but she had like access to her police contacts.
But what I'm
and,
saying
like,
is that like the way that they made it sound is that there were just like thousands and thousands of women trying to.
Yeah.
Like, what are the chances that one of those other thousands of women couldn't have found him too?
They did get his address, which is so I guess she was the only one that was crazy enough to show up because other girls were sending him.
well, that's my point. If it was real, if it was more real, way more women would have ended up finding
Yeah,
him.
probably so. Now, but then again, that computer system that she had that looked like some early connected internet type of stuff, but I feel like it was one that probably only the newspaper had access to because
Maybe.
it said some sort of like Nexus hub, and I remember way back in the day those things like kind of going on these giant databases as opposed to actually being connected to the internet. I
really-
loved all that technology.
I really liked how if we get away from the stalker thing for a little bit.
Yeah, because we should. I mean, we should drop it, right?
Right.
Like, we
It's-
set our
I'm
pace
fine-
on
I'm
it.
fine with the
It's
stalking
just a
part of it.
construct.
It's a construct. Yes,
Yeah.
like it's funny to joke about. It is creepy viewed rationally. You should not be
But
viewing
it
this
works.
movie rationally.
It
It does
works.
work. It does work.
I loved the way that also Rosie O'Donnell, very surprising how well she did in
did a
this.
really good
Straight
job.
up.
The way that
How's
Rosie
Walter?
O'Donnell and Meg Ryan would be watching An Affair to Remember. I love the way that they would connect with that movie in a way as that being the dream. I thought that was very
And that
funny.
and that once again kind of speaks to the fairy tale fantasy type of aspect because she even says because it's because of Affair to Remember that they come up with the whole meeting right at
Yeah.
the top of the Empire State Building. One thing about this movie that stands out to me is that the setup is brutal, dude. I almost had to I feel so bad for Tom Hanks in the beginning of this movie that he had such a happy marriage. They have this son, everything's going great, and then when he loses wife, like I thought he did a very good job acting it. The dialogue was great. Just the whole scene where he is talking about his feelings on the old relationship, and the one line where he talks about I have to remind myself that I had it perfect for a while. That is devastating to me. Like I had to get up and move around. I was getting anxious just thinking about how terrible that would be.
It was really sweet the way that they created her character showing up, like when he's on the couch
Yeah.
and she shows up. I thought that the first time, wasn't it, that you kind of hear him talking about her, the sound stays the same in the scene, but then you see them at Wrigley Field.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was that was really heartbreaking.
Yeah, so I mean, it's is a year and a half too short to wanna get back on the
Just a date?
I don't know. That's I don't
think
know.
that's long.
I don't think you can
I guess I don't
answer
know.
like
Yeah.
I guess I can't answer.
Y'all know.
Heard that, Kevin?
Oh, speaking of that, I told Kevin.
I've got a Rolodex of people
I
that I'm
told
going to
It's
next.
like, yeah, like 2 months.
Well,
right?
you've got like
It's
7
2
friends you could go to.
Apparently, they all want to sleep with me.
Oh, yes.
No, I actually told Kevin. I was like, "Oh, this is a funny part." I was like, "If I ever die, swear to God to me that you will not date a woman who laughs as obnoxiously as that woman." And he was like, he looked at me kind of crazy, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "You laugh exactly like that. That is your laugh."
Oh, no.
And now I can't laugh anymore, so I'm sorry.
no.
You'll never hear me laugh again.
That's
Kevin,
great. That's
oh
funny.
my God. See, that's how you know you're in a great relationship. Right
You're
there.
never gonna hear me laugh again because apparently that's what I sound
Caitlin
like.
told me you better if I die, you better not be in a relationship a year and a half. That's that bullshit.
Like, what are you gonna do? What are you really gonna do, though? But y'all know Patton Oswalt, the
Yes,
comedian.
yes.
Y'all know he was a widower about a year and a half ago. He
Oh,
got married
no,
about
no,
a year
no way.
later.
Really?
Yeah, they seem to be incredibly happy.
So I mean, look, and I don't think you can
There's
know
not
how
like
you'd
a
ever react to
timeline,
that
yeah.
situation outside looking in. It would be devastating. Like so I felt terrible for Tom Hanks at the beginning of this. I think the dialogue describing his older relationship was absolutely beautiful, and it's like so important because that's why the whole movie works. Because as a listener just watching through this movie, I feel kind of enamored by the emotions that he's putting out there.
When he's like, "What?" or when she asks, what was so great
Yeah, what
about
was so great about it?
your
Where do I
wife?
start?
Like,
Or
how
how
long
long's
is
your
your
program?
how long is your
Yeah.
program? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, get out of here!
And it feels like a much lesser
Getting
movie.
chill bumps.
It would have been a lot easier for them to just hurry up and get to they're on other ends of
Mm-hmm.
the country, but they did spend a lot of good time on building how sad he was.
So one thing that this movie does really well from a stylistic standpoint, and maybe this is more of a directorial decision than like screenwriting, but I think it works very well, is this movie seems to emphasize music and audio a lot. I mentioned like visual storytelling, right? Like so their whole relationship is kind of created through the radio, through listening, right? I felt like there were a lot of long stretches in this movie where there is no talk, there is no dialogue, and you're just listening and watching and absorbing it through your ears. And I just thought that really it really worked for me. All the scenes with like these classic, very romantic love songs, and that really spoke to the more fantastical elements of the movie.
I loved. I hope to have a relationship with my child the way that Tom Hanks has. with
the
his
Yeah.
son. I loved whenever he says, "No, we can't talk to her." Did you ever see Fatal Attraction? He goes, "No, you wouldn't let me." Well, it scared the shit out of every man in America.
Or whenever they're talking about, they're like brushing their teeth, and
Yeah.
like, what are they? He said something about like when you're having sex, women are always scratching up people's backs
Yes,
and yelling, and he's like, "How do you know
yes.
that?" He's like, "Jed's got cable." Like,
Yes.
whatever.
That was great. I like their fight scene a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's a father and son who have, you sit back from afar and you're like, oh, how could he yell at his son like that or whatever? But it's like, no, like they're family. That's a real father and son moment there. They're both angry at each other and they're letting each other know.
When you find out your son is flying across the country and you find him on top of the Empire State Building, you're like a little more mad than
Yeah,
that.
I don't know if you are immediately though,
Okay.
because you're so relieved.
Like,
I
it's
mean,
like when
I don't
you
know.
get down,
though.
I don't know either. I don't. I
But-
feel like you're more mad.
I feel
but
like Tom Hanks's character is not mad.
Yeah,
I feel
maybe
some
not.
dads would be.
That's-
My
well,
dad would beat the
I
shit
mean,
out of
but
me.
look, Tom
yeah,
Hanks,
like,
yeah,
I
so
feel like
would mine,
mine
right?
too. Yeah,
But it's out
Throw
of a
you
place
off
of
the
love.
Empire State Building.
yeah, like you're staying up here.
I love you. Push you off. This is for your own good. No,
The way he ordered that ticket. Can you imagine ordering a plane ticket like that nowadays on that
and
computer?
just getting on and like nobody questioning it.
I love the old computerness.
Yeah.
That little girl, oh my gosh, I love her. What's her real name? The little girl, she's in Now and Then,
Ooh.
and then
Now and then.
she's in
That's
that-
what I recognize
Susie?
her from.
Is that it?
she's in that movie, and then she's on Girls too as
I've never
Adam. What's
seen
her
Girls.
face? His
Oh, I didn't
sister.
know that.
Yeah. Anyways, she's
What-
great.
Was I loved whenever they go and confront that girl, like, where is he? And then she says he's on the ... and then the father
And
goes,
why?
oh my gosh, like he knows exactly what that flight is. Like he's going to New York. The
he's on the 425,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
What was?
Oh, he knows when the flight leaves.
Oh, that's
For
what-
some
oh,
reason.
'cause
That's
she's like,
what it was.
She's
No,
like, he's
that's
going
what
to.
it
How
was.
did you know that that flight?
She's going
left
to, or he's
at
going to
7:30?
NY. Nowhere?
No, that's NW. That's a good scene. So Sleepless in Seattle, I really enjoyed it. The only person I feel bad for, dude, I feel terrible for Walter, man.
I mean, but Walter needed to like step up a little. Like when she like was, they were sitting there at the dinner. But just listen to me. Just listen to me.
Are you forgiving what Meg Ryan did and being creepy, but then downplaying Walter?
I think that you guys aren't listening to me. Is the problem? Is that I think that he needed to stand up for himself more because what she was doing was so crappy. Like, I think that that's not realistic. I think that they're sitting at that table, and like that's why I don't feel sorry for him. Because like stand up for yourself,
because he didn't fight for her.
Just like not for her, but for himself.
Well, you've got Mel kind of had the same thing, kind of like that. Well, it's not working. But
at least they both had like they were kind of crappy to each other. Like Walter, stand up for yourself. That's why I don't
Walter
feel sorry for you.
This like romantic vacation to
be
New York.
Pissed. You're allowed to be pissed.
That's kind of why it was funny for some reason. He'd let people beat the crap out of him, and he would be fine with it.
Like be pissed about it. Like I want you to be mad right now, and you're not.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, because like I would be infuriated if I had planned all this and I gotten this ring and it made it so nice, and then she tells me, what did she say? Like I need to not expect surprises or something along those lines. And I'm just thinking like, oh, bitch,
well, especially
I would be pissed.
I would be pissed if you know that you're gonna go right after this to the Empire State Building to meet your love, and you're gonna let me pay for this dinner on this beautiful like 55th floor in
Drinking
New
that
York.
Dom.
So look, two Rivers.
That's
credit.
what I mean. Is like take up for yourself. The only thing he said was
it's kind of his own creation.
The only thing he said, which I was like, okay, well that's a little better, is like I deserve to be, or what did he say?
I don't deserve to be somebody's like settlement.
Yeah, I don't deserve to be settled for. Yeah, and that yes, you're right, Walter. Like. Let's do this. Get mad.
Man.
No, I guess, look, it's just because this movie is so fairy tale-ish.
Yes.
They didn't want to go into Walter
for sure.
being like...
And it would have kind of ruined it if he got mad at her 5 minutes before the movie was over.
But I guess but it is kind of an interesting story choice not to give Walter any flaws beyond ones that are out of his control, like bad allergies.
Yeah.
I get it. He's a little nerdy because he's allergic and he has this fan machine at night, but he's a really good guy. And he does everything else great.
Can you put up the video of the one where it's like they love the movie, something labeled about the movie? I think this might have been the scene I laughed at the most whenever the wife of Tom Hanks's friend is talking about how like, an affair to remember whenever they meet. And then they're saying like, I feel the same way when it's the Dirty Dozen whenever Lee Cobb's at the end of Dirty Dozen.
That's his real wife.
Whose wife?
Tom Hanks.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never realized
but
that.
I love how
What's
the
her
two
name?
of them are making fun of her.
Rita.
Right after she's bawling and then they're bawling. But
Rita
Wilson.
Wilson.
Well, that goes back to what we said with Nora Ephron. Rita Wilson. There we go. Nora Ephron does great friend dialogue.
Yeah.
It just has a very realistic type of feel. It's a post meal. They're drinking wine. They're hanging out around the table. Nora Ephron makes me want to live in a city with a successful job and a group of intelligent friends where we get together and have great conversations.
That was
all
one
the
thing
time.
I realized. These people they're doing well.
Everybody's doing well.
Relationships are like you can have a relationship easily in New York City.
They have some ballin' ass houses in New York.
Yep.
Everybody does. Or what is it? New York, Seattle, Chicago's a bit in these movies.
Well, I don't know.
Baltimore, I guess,
it's like,
a bit.
I guess a little unrealistic. But if you think about it, when Harry met Sally, they're at the dinner where they're trying to introduce their friends. So
the one guy writes for the New Yorker.
Both of them do. So does Sally. So two of the four people at this table write for
for like one of the biggest magazines in the entire country.
And the way that they connect, talking about realistic dialogue, where they connect because she quotes an article that he wrote.
Right.
So it does make me want to live in the city and be wildly successful. But man, it would be such a nice life.
I'd like that.
Anything else on Sleepless in Seattle?
That's it.
Yeah,
this is my favorite version.
Once again, I recommend it.
She looks younger in this movie than she does in When Harry Met Sally to me.
See, I kind of thought she looked younger in When Harry Met Sally.
I don't know. Either way, Meg Ryan's beautiful as always. Tom Hanks, very attractive as well.
How long is it going to be? How many years before Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are in another movie together? It's got to happen at some point. It might even be another 10 years.
Everything comes back around, but where has Meg Ryan gone? I don't know what happens
to get some more lip injections.
They're going to need...
I don't like hearing that.
There's going to need to be... it'll need to be a while. I think it'll be a while, but I think it will happen.
Yeah, maybe you do like it when they're both like really old, entering their super golden years. I don't know. What was the last thing I wanted to say on Sleepless in Seattle? I don't know. If it comes back to me, we'll go back to it. Next up on the list, the final movie for today Nathan, give us some background information on You've Got Mail.
Yeah, You've Got Mail, 1998. Again, written and directed by Nora Ephron, based on
So she directed this one?
She did this one and Sleepless in Seattle. And so it is about. It's kind of a little bit of a play on the forbidden love story. These two, we know that they are not gonna work out, or we think they're not gonna work out because they're enemies in real life. But this man and this woman, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, are pen pals over the internet. They talk, they give advice to each other. They talk about how their day's going. You can tell that they're in love, but they have a rule: they can't talk personal stuff. So they can't know who they are. They can't know what they do.
The two personalities that click.
Yeah. But Meg Ryan runs her mother's shop around the corner, a bookstore, and Tom Hanks is
a tiny boutique small business owner bookstore.
Tom Hanks is running all of these little bookstores out of business because he is bringing the super bookstore into town.
The Barnes & Noble analog, essentially.
Yes. So in real life, the two of them don't like each other. Although the first time they meet, they do have a little bit of a spark. But they do not know, until about halfway into the movie, Tom Hanks knows. But they do not know that they are pen pals in love, and they hate each other in real life.
So real life, they hate each other. Virtual world, they love each other, and they don't know, and then that's where the movie takes place, is in that journey to them finding out. What stood out to y'all in this movie?
I mean, I think it's kind of the same as what I said about the other one. I think we have normalized being intimate with people that we've never met or will never meet because of social media. So like this felt very. I think this stuff happens all the time. Like
it felt very
realistic.
It felt very realistic. That is kind of interesting to point out, and I hadn't really considered that. In that, like, there was a lot of stigma attached with meeting someone online at the time this movie came out. And you can see that they're both a bit self-conscious about that. And, of course, when Tom Hanks stands her up, or doesn't, but he does, everybody's like, well, yeah, like, what did you expect? You met this person on the internet. Of course that's going to happen.
They said he could be a murderer.
So, like, so a little, maybe. So
it seemed more normal to me to watch this because I was like,
some of that impact is kind of lost. Like, for a modern viewer, you would be more like, well, yeah, you just meet online. That's what you do. It's Tinder.
I like how they met in
Bumble,
an over 30 years chat room.
Yeah.
On AOL.
I actually didn't. I missed that detail.
I remember those chat rooms.
AOL chat rooms are weird, man.
Oh gosh, and then them talking about, I don't know why I thought this was so funny, but she was like telling her friend that works at the shop that she had met this guy on the internet in this chat room, and she was like, "Have you had cyber sex yet?" And I was like, "Oh god,
don't do it. They lose all respect for you." I love that actress. Where has she gone? I don't know her name.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Oh, she was in what's that Sandra Bullock beauty pageant movie?
Miss Congeniality.
She was in that movie.
Yeah. I would say between the three, this is my favorite movie when it comes to the side characters. All the people that she works with, Tom Hanks' dad, his grandfather.
Yeah, I love
Dave Chappelle was weird to me in this movie. Because he was not Dave Chappelle.
This is the first time I've seen Dave Chappelle because y'all have talked about the Dave Chappelle show. I've never seen that. But this is the first time I've seen him he was still in his heyday here, right? 98?
Yeah, this is like in the middle of it, I think.
No, this is on like the come up. This is like when he was doing Con Air. Is this around Con Air time?
He was in Con Air?
He was in Con Air. He is one of the prisoners. He's the one who gets thrown out the plane with the message written on his chest.
I don't know. I just feel like every time that
down.
Dave Chappelle is in a movie, even if it is a character that's not Dave Chappelle, he's still Dave Chappelle. You know, Dave Chappelle-ish. In this movie, he was not.
No. And I think Con Air, maybe he is a little more Dave Chappelle. But yeah, I kind of see
hard
what
for
you're
me
saying.
to
But then again, the weird thing is, at the time of the filming of this movie, Dave Chappelle wasn't Dave Chappelle.
Right, sure. But for me to watch it, it's strange to see him like in this non-Dave Chappelle character.
He was a business guy.
Yeah.
He was just a sidekick.
Yeah, just
like,
a good
I don't know. It was weird.
Good business sidekick friend.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. At the time, if I had watched it, it would have been fine. But just knowing Dave Chappelle now,
he stands really out. That is true. Anytime you have somebody who hits it big, and then you watch an earlier movie that they had, like Will Ferrell has roles like that littered throughout.
Yeah, but most of his early stuff too is like him getting high and like it wasn't that role.
Steve Buscemi's a lot like that when you watch Steve Buscemi's earlier stuff. He'll show up for like a scene and you'll be like, whoa, that's Steve Buscemi is the waiter.
I like Steve Buscemi a lot.
I like the way that it kind of deals with the idea that love and hate are incredibly close together. Those are two emotions that are very, very close. Like you can see the chemistry between the two of them whenever they're friends is still there whenever they hate each other's guts.
Yes, right? Like it's how she finally was able to say the exact mean, like witty quip that she wanted to at the time when she was talking to that person. She finally got that perfect retort out instead of just fumbling and then thinking about it hours later. Like, yeah, they kind of bring out the best and worst in each other. That's interesting, man. The chemistry of hate. That's something that I've never even really thought about. Now, let's talk about something that we kind of referenced, which is, what do y'all think? Like, is Tom Hanks a bit manipulative in this?
Yeah,
because about
love Tom
halfway through
Hanks.
halfway through the movie, basically, he figures out that the online girl he's potentially in love with is Meg Ryan. They already hate each other in real life at this point, and so he allows her to think that she got stood up, and that he just just continues to kind of be mean to her, but. So then the second half of the movie,
But
he
see, I don't think
knows
he's being
she
mean.
doesn't know. Yeah, and you're right. He isn't. But then in the second half of the movie, he knows she doesn't know, and he's at times it can almost give like a puppeteer type of feel.
For
So what do
sure.
you think?
Well,
Like,
the way
how do you
the way
interpret
that he comes over and takes care of her, that is something that everyone would respond to in a way of him being very sweet. I don't think everyone is going to respond the same way to how he doesn't tell her whenever they meet. I think some people will say that is charming. I can definitely see why some people would think he's kind of being an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, too, imagine it from his perspective. Like, he thinks he hates this chick. Like, and I would have, I don't know what I would have done in that situation, but I probably wouldn't have walked up and been like, hey, I'm the one you've been chatting with. Like, so, I mean, think about it from that perspective. Everyone's looking at her and feeling heartbroken for her, but like, he's still going through the same thing. Like,
No,
I
that's
did
a really
really,
good
I
point.
did really like the suspense element that it gave. For the
But
rest
then
of the movie.
but then maybe where it gets weird though is even less that he stood her up, because at that time, they don't like each other. Screw it, drop the whole thing.
right. But then he can't stop thinking about her.
But then when he starts to become really good friends with her and he still won't tell her, I guess some people would have been upset when they would have later learned that like he knew the entire time.
Right.
One thing that I like about it though, if nothing else, and I actually think it does round all the way into sweetness by the end, because it proves it becomes this thing where he gave himself a harder road to climb, which kind of reinforces that like she really did like him.
Well, and that's another thing. He still knows that he likes this woman.
Yeah.
And he knows that if he goes in there and says, I'm the pen pal, she's going to say, screw off. This isn't going to work.
Right.
He's gotta
I
build
guess
something.
I guess I never even thought about it like that. I just always thought that she'd be like, oh wow, and then maybe start to consider him.
Yeah, she still hates him.
But then you're right. Maybe that would have completely blown even the pen pal relationship that he had, and he was somewhat worried to lose that.
Well, it almost seemed like he was going to give up on the pen pal thing for a little while, but then he couldn't stop thinking about her. Like, he didn't show up. So then he did show up, I guess we know. But
I know, it's so
but
weird.
so he doesn't show up, and so she's not sure what happened. But he doesn't go home, and it almost is like he's like, I'm done with it. Like, he didn't go home and write her back.
Yeah.
Like, he waited a while.
Yeah.
And he didn't write her back until she actually wrote him and said, hey, I've been thinking about you. You didn't show up. Like, I don't know what happened. And then he like waits for a while, and it's almost like he's like gonna give it up.
It's
and
true.
then he can't.
So he realizes he maybe had feelings that he wasn't fully aware of. And so that starts to make way more sense then in kind of why he would leave the shop and then still pursue her.
Maybe he was going to give it up.
It does. Yeah, exactly. It seems like he was ready to throw his hands up. It is a pretty creative setup in that I don't know of many other movies where the male romantic lead is competing against himself, right? Like that was pretty unique, and that's actually pretty cool. And that's taking this electronic communication, this new fandangled email, and setting up a pretty interesting tale around it.
That is one thing in general about Nora Ephron that I think kind of helped make romantic comedies a big thing, because we haven't had a lot recently. Actually having a strong construct that makes the movie survive. It's not just a guy and a girl falling in love, which...
I mean, the ones that I go back to that I really loved in college were all the Judd Apatows. I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Knocked Up.
But those are more those are romantic comedies. That's hard for those are more like a laddie type of, maybe more in the vein of like National Lampoon's type of.
They're a little raunchier. And a little This Is 40 though is pretty. Have you ever seen This Is 40?
Yeah.
I love This Is 40.
I love that movie.
And that I feel like
that's
probably it is kind of like a
Knocked
pseudo sequel to Knocked Up.
That movie is so good.
I think This Is 40 got kind of bad reviews, but I
that
think
very
it's great.
first scene where she's like, in her bathroom like smoking, and he's like eating the cupcakes. Like that's me and Kevin, because like I used to like smoke, and I would sneak it, and he hated it, so I would hide it. But he also is like a cyclist, and like Kevin's always trying to eat like sweet. It was literally us. I was like, oh my god, that's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, I find that some people are depressed by the nature of the relationship, and this is 40, and I just think it's very realistic.
Yeah.
But that's a great point, Nathan. Like when I think about romantic comedies, those jump to the forefront of my mind, but like in terms of other recent offerings, I don't know what I've really been impressed by.
There was one that came out in 2017, and it was This Is Us. There wasn't really a big studio romantic comedy that came out last year.
And is that just because did it become scorched earth with romantic comedies because they churned out so many shitty ones?
Seemed
and they were
like
bad. They were so bad.
And they were so formulaic. Like it was the exact same thing every single movie.
I think that's what's good about the Tom Hanks thing. Like it's not just a romantic comedy; it becomes suspenseful
There's
halfway
more
through.
to it, right?
That's true. That's a good point. It's definitely more layered. There's more interesting elements, and it's Nora Ephron. Just I don't know what the exact trick to doing this is. But she has the ability to write these movies where nothing really happens from like an exciting, like what you think about standpoint in terms of like they're very everyday movies. And it's just talking. It's people living their life, maybe doing a thing here or there, but it's not terribly exciting. That you stay locked in and engaged the entire time, which that just speaks to the writing. And it's like anything else. It's the execution rather than kind of the core ideas itself that really sell. She's pretty.
This movie
incredible.
actually makes, like y'all are talking about New York and whatever. This movie makes me want to live in New York.
Yeah.
Like they do it really well.
My friend from like kindergarten just moved to New York, and I'm so jealous of him.
Like this movie makes me, just the way they do the seasons and just everything and the parties and like the little shops and the coffee.
Gotta have a Christmas scene. Christmas in New York. We've seen a couple of these movies. It's the best. Me and Caitlin go once every December to city, and then we've got a couple friends up there. And yeah, every time you go, you like wonder like why did I come up here when I was younger? Yeah, like why did I come spend a year up here? Blah blah blah, whatever. It's so easy to fall in love with these cities, big cities, when you go visit them. And Ephron really captures that, romanticizes it, and makes you feel like, oh, I want to be there, walking around the town. When Harry Met Sally, when he sees his ex-wife.
And they're singing that song.
He's like, of course, in the city
she's
of
like,
8
I
million
know, my
people.
voice is so bad. Like, she's not even looking at him. I was like, well, that looks like me too.
Of course. What does he say? He says, like, of course, in a city of 8 million people, eventually I was going to run into my ex-wife. And that's, you talk to the New Yorkers, that's what they say.
What do you think of Greg Kinnear in this? I really liked him. I thought he was very funny.
I think he did a good job in his character, and I think he was supposed to be kind of obnoxious.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it worked.
Whenever he forgives her for not voting.
I mean, he is your very crunchy, liberal, complete opposite of John Fox.
Which it made
very
me
emotional.
It made me a little self-conscious. I own a typewriter, and I own a lot of that. I do a lot of that same stuff, and I was like, ooh, it's not that good.
Do you know what's interesting about his obsession with typewriters? Do you know who has a very real and very intense obsession with typewriters?
Who?
Tom Hanks. I listened to like a 45-minute podcast one time on NPR where all he did was talk about typewriters.
I love them
like
as
all
well.
the different elements in the paper and what the correct way to use them is and how to have them set up so you'll be encouraged. Just like it's very, so I don't know, like I didn't look it up. I don't know if this kind of inspired him or if he kind of inspired Nora Ephron, but I think that was an interesting detail. Tom Hanks is obsessed with typewriters, talks like very passionately about them.
I got one for Christmas.
I love the idea of a typewriter. I don't know that I would. What is that noise?
Are y'all hearing a piano?
Yeah, you hearing piano?
Oh, hey, you guys are getting a little treat.
I was about to say, is someone breathing strange?
Wait, so what do you do on your typewriter though? Because I love the idea of romantically like typing up little notes and thoughts.
So this is my deal. Like I like the typewriter. I like the idea of paper, and like same reason I like my books. Like I have libraries of books.
Okay, so it should be noted.
I'm not trying to e-read anything.
Paper as a storage device, far superior to electronics. I've just read that new Da Vinci biography, Walter Isaacson, same guy that wrote the Steve Jobs biography. We have more of Da Vinci's notebooks than we have of Steve Jobs' emails from the 90s.
Yeah, I
Paper is a good
don't
storage
want to
device.
e-read anything. No, thanks, and no thanks.
You
I don't
tried
want
reading
any of
a
that.
book on an iPad. It's
It's
distracting.
I want to touch that. Like I want to touch the paper. I want to smell it. I want to feel it. Like I want to be with my
smell
book.
every page I read.
Look, whatever. But I like
No,
how
I
books
agree with you.
smell.
I agree.
Like
I agree with
Oh,
you.
yeah,
and so it's the same thing. It's like this is
I
just
read-
that being able
I-
to touch the paper.
I
and,
had a
like,
Kindle. I tried it for a while. I even read like multiple books on it. I got rid of it.
Kevin got me a Kindle one time for Christmas after I told him I didn't want one, and I actually cried.
Why did he get
I
it for
cried.
you if you didn't like
I
it?
was really upset. It became a thing, and it's like we can laugh about it now.
I hate when people do that.
Oh,
Like
man.
because I
that-
was so sad about the thought
that
of like.
sounds like such a miserable Christmas. Like, just like,
But I told him I didn't want one, and then he still got it for me. And then I was so upset because I was like trying to be really nice about it. I was like, "Oh, this is so great! I'll read so many books on it, and this is so wonderful."
maybe he thought you would learn to love it.
He did, and he was like, "Okay," and we said it.
Well, look, that is a good lesson for everybody out there.
Don't marry a crazy person.
No, don't assume that you know better than the
someone
person.
who thinks they're low maintenance but is actually high maintenance.
right.
Okay, well, one interesting thing to note, you know how they keep talking about Fox Books taking over the world? Is Fox Books really
Barnes
Amazon?
and Noble.
Remember, what did Amazon start as way back in
Yeah,
the
it was
day?
books.
Online booksellers.
Yeah.
That was it. And now look
Now
where
they're selling
they are.
you anything
Speaking
that
of
you want.
Kindles, now Jeff Bezos owns half the world. So in the You've Got Mail universe, I think that John Fox now owns half
I
of
loved
the world.
We didn't talk about Tom Hanks's dad and grandfather. I really liked them.
Oh yeah, I
Those
love
solid
the way
characters.
that he like showed up and he was like, "Good thing I didn't." No, he says, "Good thing you didn't marry her." And
The casualness with which they can discuss some pretty big things like divorce and whatever else, it speaks to just how kind of
or
flippant.
whenever
the
he's like, "And then
father
I
is.
had Eleanor. She was the maid. Was she?" Like,
She was my nanny. What?
yeah, that's it. That's it.
irony, right?
But then his last one ran away with Nanny Maureen.
Yeah,
yes,
that
exactly
was very
right. So he was
funny.
like ironic. I don't know. They were scene stealers
Yeah.
in their scenes.
Did y'all kind of want to punch Tom Hanks's girlfriend? She
Oh,
was
Parker Posey was not. She's like that in every movie.
Yeah,
I think
she
that's her
is.
shtick, like to be really aggressive.
Where are my
and-
Tic Tacs?
She's like to be very aggressive and to be very like, it's like push your buttons.
The
like,
actual
that's her.
side of a New Yorker, someone who is. Oh,
Yeah,
slow
and then,
down
and
a
then,
little bit.
and then you have the whole opposites attract thing where they kind of, the super kind of liberal, out there, arty kind of guy, and then the Parker Posey character, which seems a little more like type A or whatever. Then of course they end up getting together, which then does the trick of making you feel better about them breaking up in the first
Yeah.
place, right? Because okay, who cares? Look, everybody's happy now,
Yeah.
which is always except for Walter.
Except for Walter.
But he is happy. 'Cause
he got with the
apparently-
newswoman. Oh no, Walter.
no, Walter's inflappable. Walter just stays happy.
Walter
no
probably
matter
went to
what
Walgreens,
happens
got
to
some
him.
hand sanitizer, went home.
He just went home and was like, gee whiz, I cannot believe that. That's a
But even
that
when he
was a
found her-
deal.
People are
Even when,
crazy.
even when he found her in the closet with the radio and the phone, he was just like, "Oh, this is normal. This is fine."
Wasn't that great whenever it cuts to the shot and there's the humidifier right over Walter?
Yes. But see, and that's where I feel even worse for him because like that's what's used against him. It's just that he's a little like sickly and an allergy kid and stuff. But yeah, so look,
See,
all
but
three of
those
these
people
movies,
in real life, they are sweet, and you feel sorry for them, but they can be annoying. Those
Do you
people.
guys
That is
remember
true.
in the
You kinda
90s?
annoy someone to death with kindness.
Is this like a thing, or maybe just in these movies? Were tissues so readily available to everyone in the 90s? I mean, there was a box in every scene. Like, they're
I feel like growing up, my house
don't
had
remember having
tissues
that many
in
Kleenexes
every
around.
room. Almost.
Really?
Yeah,
We
like all
suppressed our
bathrooms.
Maybe we were
emotions
like
in
a-
my household.
Yeah, it's no crying allowed. So no, why would you have tissues?
maybe that was like a luxury that my family just couldn't afford. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know. We
I
just
don't
didn't
know.
have boxes.
We
with
would
Kleenex everywhere.
wipe our tears with sandpaper.
I don't have any tissues in my house now.
That's
though.
just something I noticed is that like in every movie, there's always a box of Kleenex to be handed to someone.
I guess so.
They're
guess
far
I mean,
more
that's so
responsible.
random, but I just
I used all my Kleenex.
Have you seen
By
an
my
affair?
bed.
Have you
Ugh.
seen an affair to remember?
knew exactly what you were about to do, and I
What?
hated it.
Yeah, the Kleenex by the bed.
That's
yeah.
I have not seen,
disgusting.
but
It's a masturbation
course.
joke.
But of course, an
have you-
affair to
we can't
remember.
end on that note. Somebody's gotta.
Have you
Somebody
seen-
say something.
Rivers, have you seen an affair to remember?
I had not, but I want to see it
Okay,
now.
all right. Yeah, I want to know. I want to know if you cry. If you end up being like
If it
Meg
ends up being
Ryan.
like the most life-changing movie of
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah, I've never seen. That was one thing that I did kind of struggle with is I've never seen An Affair to Remember, or in Sleepless in Seattle.
Casablanca.
Yeah. I've never seen Casablanca.
Have you seen Casablanca?
Yes.
What would you stay behind
I
it?
don't know.
No.
Right.
That was a big deal, and when
I know.
that was another part of the irony that I loved when Harry Met Sally. Whenever he said, "And yeah, remember, you're the type of person that would, go on the plane." She's like, "I would never go on the plane." When did I say that?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That how you grow up and you forget like maybe what you used to say or
You
how you
forget
used
how
to feel.
shallow you used
and then,
to be.
and then you don't even like recognize your older self. That's a good point. All right, we ready to rank these movies?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are we gonna go 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1? Right? Isn't that how we've been doing
Last
it?
time we did it, we went with our
I
number
don't know.
one.
We gotta find a
and
less confusing way to do it.
No, we went from least favorite
Yeah,
to
we did
favorite.
3, 3, 3,
Yeah.
2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, right? Because that's what Nathan. We slowly but surely learned that
Yeah.
Nathan was going to
AI.
put
I'm
AI
still with
at the
AI
top
as
of his
number one.
list.
Okay, let's do
Who
this
wants to
thing.
start? Nathan. We'll just go. We'll go right to left.
Number 3 for me would be.
This is a tough one,
Oh,
dude.
this is so tough.
This is a tight grouping. Like in terms of quality,
Mhm.
it's hard for me to
I like
separate.
them all. So it's
Number
like-
3, I'm gonna go. You've Got Mail.
Yeah. Oh, I can see. Reverse, you're up.
I think I'm gonna do the same thing, but I hate that because I really like You've Got Mail.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a good. I mean, I love all these.
Did
movies.
y'all dislike any of them?
No.
Did y'all?
No. And
So-
that's where ranking stuff gets weird because
There's no Blade Runner in
You
there.
go out of your way to critique, but that's good. Like you should still be able to critique things or blah, blah. But yes,
I'm gonna go You've Got Mail 3.
it goes without saying. I think we all three recommend, or we recommend all three of these
Yes.
movies, right? I would say, yeah. I'm actually gonna go Sleepless in Seattle at number 3. Well, I appreciated the fairy tale aspect
You whore.
and everything. It did lose me, I guess, a little bit. I didn't find it as relatable or as engaging as You've Got Mail or When Harry Met Sally. So Sleepless is my 3rd. Who's your number 2?
Number 2 for me is Sleepless in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the connection between the two of them, I think I like the idea of what's happening in You've Got Mail more, but I felt like the connection between Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan was stronger. I felt like I felt happier for the two of them when they ended up together in that movie than in You've Got Mail.
Interesting. Because they were like barely even on screen together.
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
movie.
That is true.
So, but I mean, I'm just saying that speaks to the storytelling that they did in a very creative way, considering they
Yeah.
actually only meet at the very end. Who's your number 2, Rivs?
I think I'm gonna go When Harry Met Sally.
Oh,
I was surprised. I was thinking we were all going to end up with that as number 1.
I just really I mean, obviously
Yeah.
now you know what my number 1 is, but I just really enjoyed Sleepless in Seattle, and I think I hadn't seen it in so long that I really, really liked it.
yeah,
When I
you
watched
did.
it.
That did seem to be the movie that stood out to you the most in the group text, which I was a bit surprised by. My number 2 is You've Got Mail. I think You've Got Mail is really damn good. Like I said, I think it's very relevant, very relatable. What you were talking about, Nathan, the chemistry and the hate in that movie. Like I really get chemistry from them in that movie, and that is probably partially because of that, and I don't even realize it. And it is it's a tearjerker at the end when he shows up, when she leaves and she's supposed to go meet the guy, and then he comes around the corner. That really did work for me. So You've Got Mail is my number 2.
Well, number 1 for me. What were you going to say?
Oh, man, what are you gonna do?
Now I'm thinking if
Oh,
You've Got
no.
Mail might need to be number 1 in my list.
It's still on your number 2. What's your number 2?
I think I'm actually gonna bump down When Harry Met Sally number 2.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's the
All right.
funniest of the movies.
Are we gonna all pick different ones?
I think it's the funniest of the
might.
movies. I do think that maybe Billy Crystal's almost too witty for his own good net. And I'm gonna go When Harry Met Sally number 2. Actually, change my mind.
Well, for my number 1, I loved When Harry Met Sally. I think from a comedic point of view, they're all funny. I laughed like well over 10 times in When
Yes,
Harry Met
out
Sally. It
loud.
was absolutely hilarious. And on the romantic side, it wasn't very. The others have a fairy tale feel. This felt like really looking at the way that a relationship would probably
It's a great
end up
point.
working out, and the idiosyncrasies that we all go through, and like the contradictions we all go through in falling in love with someone. I really enjoyed that. And then at the end, the way that they two get together, when they're on the couch at the end, them being together made me the happiest seeing them at the end. And I love the witty thing. I respond to the witty thing immediately with Billy.
yeah,
Crystal.
and it's. I mean, I think everything you just said is absolutely true
Yeah.
in terms of how that movie is.
I'm gonna go Sleepless in Seattle, but it's actually for the same reason. I mean, they always Meg Ryan ends up with someone at the end of all of these movies. And it makes me happy in all 3 movies. But I was the happiest at the end of Sleepless in Seattle, even though they weren't on screen a ton together. I think that almost made it better for me when they finally, they finally were there together. And you can just feel it. Yeah, they're like meant to be. And it.
What was that?
Like, come on, get there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. What'd you think of
Tissues by the bed?
Yeah. Okay.
That's like from over here.
I was wondering if that's where you're going.
Perfect. And Tom Hanks was so charming in this movie. So yeah,
in Sleepless, he really was. I mean, he's a wordsmith. He's so eloquent.
He was my favorite version of himself in this movie, and she was.
It was really
she was my
sad.
favorite
They
version.
did a great job at making you feel how sad he was in that.
I mean, yeah. I was almost entering Craig T. Nelson territory.
Are we
before
getting a little family stone here?
I pulled myself out when I was watching the movie earlier. Made me stop thinking about it so intensely because, like, I started, you started doing, well, what if that happened to me? And dark places. I think I like You've Got Mail the best. I think I like their relationship the best in it. Like the same things that y'all said about when they're together in the end. I like it maybe the most when they're together in the end of that, and it exposes the dark truth of humanity, which is that we're not good people. At the end of the day, we will not support local business. If something's available cheaper by a mass, if you can get it cheaper, you can get it easier, more convenient. That's why corporations are taking over the world. You've Got Mail basically lays out the sad truth of humanity. Yes.
At the end of the day, we will all be seduced by the Barnes & Noble, the Amazons, the Tom Hanks.
Yes,
Tom
exactly.
Hanks is Jeff Bezos.
Exactly.
Will, yeah.
And he's great. And you know what? She probably does like a little hipster corner of the Fox bookstore, and it's her little children's section, and that's great.
They'll get married, and she'll ask, could you help fund
You've Got
the
Mail
Y'all
is
probably
honest. It exposes our true nature as bad human
Y'all probably
beings.
do not remember this, but I loved this moment of You've Got Mail because I remembered them. Do you remember the shoe books? You remember she's in Fox Books and she's crying, like she's sitting at the table?
Yes.
I
do
loved
remember
those books
I don't remember
so
shoe
much.
books.
So you got them, but they came with little necklaces.
Yeah.
So I had
Oh.
the ballet shoes.
Maybe I don't know this.
I had ballet shoes. And
Hey.
And so you got like a little ballerina
No,
like
I
neck.
have no
Oh,
idea what you're
I
talking
loved
about.
the shoe books.
Oh,
That was a great scene whenever he hears her giving like the author's name and the guy who works in the Soulless bookstore is like,
You know who that guy is? That's Danny from Mindy Project, but he's also in a bunch of other stuff. He's
I've
like
never
a.
seen Mindy.
You would
I
know.
never
No,
was.
look. You would.
Of all the shows that I've seen previews of, I've never been even. Is
It's
Mindy
actually a
Project
really
any
good.
Is
It's
it
like a really good show.
Okay. I should maybe give it a chance.
He's been in a bunch of other really good movies, so I feel like you'd know him. This guy. I can't think of his real name. He's in a bunch of like indie movies.
I think this is probably
what is
good.
that? What is
Indie-
that?
indie
Yeah, sorry.
point.
I'm like, you can't see anything. I'm so sorry.
Maybe this is where we're gonna call this one.
Head over heels.
Ah.
I don't know. Anyways, but yeah.
Well, Nora Ephron, you were wonderful. We loved all 3 of these movies. You were very talented.
Oh, never mind.
Very sad to look up that she died from leukemia. It sounds like, so rest in peace. But you are a great talent, and we were glad to have had you spun your tales, and so that we can enjoy them for time eternal.
Go see The Post in theaters now. It's dedicated to Nora Ephron.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Nice. Okay, now another reason to see The Post.
Yeah.
So You've Got Mail. We give them all thumbs up. I mean, we'd recommend all
Yeah,
3.
I mean, they're all really
First
great.
episode, which we've each had a different winner, which
Yeah,
is
that's
kind of
nice.
interesting. We don't know what we're going to do next episode yet, so just follow us on Twitter. I'm at tbob53.
At Rivs Hughey.
Nathan Vel 812.
I knew that.
Hey, I made
I knew
Twitter
that was
long
gonna
ago.
go great. I know. So follow us on Twitter, stay up to date with it, and we will let you know. Thank you to Joe Rodriguez behind the glass, as always, doing all the hard production work behind the scenes. Thank you so much, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Later, y'all.
See ya.
Bye.